Hi, and welcome to Dopamine and Doubt. I'm your host, Rachel, a licensed clinical social worker specializing in ADHD and OCD. On this show, I will be speaking from both my clinical and lived experience as we explore the surprisingly common crossover of ADHD and OCD. Because when we understand which is in the driver's seat, we are better able to know what we need in that moment. Whether you're living right at the intersection of both or navigate life with one of these neurotypes, you're welcome here. As always, please take what is helpful and leave what isn't. Neurodivergence shows up differently for everyone, and there is no one-size-fits-all approach. Okay, let's dive in. I have said before that ADHD and OCD look like similar behaviors, but have an entirely different function in the moment. Today, I have the perfect example, and a client graciously gave me permission to share this story because it's just too good. So I sat down with my client to do something that she had been avoiding for months: taxes. At first, this looked like classic ADHD avoidance. She was unsure where to find all the needed information. She was not sure where to begin. Every step felt overwhelming, and the task felt so big, her brain basically said, absolutely not. So, in session, we used body doubling, broke it into tiny steps, and just got started. And then, plot twist, as we got farther into the taxes, ADHD kind of stepped aside, and OCD walked right into the room. My client suddenly became very concerned that she was going to answer something incorrectly. At one point, she looked at me and with complete seriousness asked, "Did I adopt a child this year?" I still laugh thinking about it because I feel pretty confident you would remember adopting a child. And this client is wonderful and hilarious, and we were able to laugh about it in the moment. And the whole experience was also so relatable and is actually another big driver of wanting to start this podcast. I felt personally so much less alone in my experience after witnessing someone else struggle with such similar things. And when I have a client with solely OCD or ADHD, I can still obviously relate, and it is a wonderful experience to get to work with them. But these are the nuances that when you have the overlap are something that if it's not your lived experience, it's hard to describe to someone else. And so thank you again for letting me use this example. And I want to highlight what might be helpful from this example. ADHD avoidance says, I don't know where to start. This feels overwhelming. There are too many steps. My brain won't engage. I'll just do it later. The goal of the avoidance is to escape, and it's to escape overwhelm, executive demand, boredom, decision fatigue. Truly, I will continue to dislike and procrastinate opening mail, paying bills, and tasks such as taxes. The intervention can be reducing friction. When ADHD is driving avoidance, the problem is not fear, it is friction. The task has too many moving parts, too many decisions, or too much activation energy. The brain is not saying this is dangerous, it's saying this feels impossible to organize. Then we land on body doubling, which is what I was doing in this session. It's simply having another person present while you work. Their presence provides external structure and helps your brain stay engaged because you're borrowing a little regulation from the environment. We can also externalize steps. So breaking things down into tiny steps reduces the number of executive decisions our brain has to make all at once. So, for example, using our earlier example with taxes, there are dozens of hidden decisions in doing taxes. It's not just one step. You have to find last year's tax return, open the tax website, Log in and remember your password. Grab your W-2s. Answer the next question. But lowering activation energy can make starting easier. And this is where we go into behavior activation. So this is based on the idea that motivation often follows action rather than preceding it. ADHD brains frequently wait to feel ready before starting, but readiness does not always come first. Sometimes you have to begin while you still feel unmotivated, and that's really hard. So these are the exact interventions I use in my office when clients are struggling with this type of avoidance and ADHD. All right, so then let's talk about OCD avoidance. OCD avoidance says, what if I do it wrong? What if I miss something? What if I make a catastrophic mistake? I have to know for sure before I continue. Now the goal is not escaping the task, it's escaping uncertainty, and that is a huge difference. We also have to watch for ADHD accommodation accidentally becoming OCD compulsion. And I will release the episode on checking behaviors. But other examples include breaking a task into smaller steps. This is a helpful tool for ADHD. If, however, we start breaking a task into 147 steps because you're scared you'll miss one, probably OCD. If you're checking your paperwork once because you're organizing, that's an ADHD strategy. If you're checking it 12 times because you can't tolerate uncertainty, then we're back into OCD. If you're making a list because you will genuinely forget, more ADHD. If you're making a list because you want to feel certain, probably OCD. Again, the intervention depends on the function. The same person can need ADHD accommodations and exposure and response prevention for OCD in the same 10 minutes. And that is exactly what happened in my office that day. At first, the treatment was not exposure, it was activation. Later, the treatment became tolerating the uncertainty and bringing in a little humor. If you're trying really hard to motivate yourself using OCD tools when the problem is executive functioning, you'll probably end up frustrated. If you're using ADHD strategies to solve OCD, you will accidentally make the compulsions more elaborate. That's why asking, what is this behavior accomplishing, is often much more useful as a starting point. For ADHD, we're asking, how can I make it easier to start? For OCD, we're asking, how can I become more willing to continue even though I feel uncertain? Same task, different intervention. ADHD interventions remove unnecessary barriers. OCD treatment does not remove uncertainty, but it does help you build the capacity to carry it. Today, I hope that a takeaway can be the next time you're avoiding something, do a check-in. Am I avoiding this because I'm overwhelmed by the task? Or am I avoiding the task because I am scared I will make a mistake? Sometimes it's one, sometimes it's both, and sometimes one leads to the other. Let's build our understanding and skills together and start practicing knowing what we need in the moment. Again, as always, thanks for being here, and I'll see you next time. This podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and does not replace professional mental health care. If you are struggling, please reach out to a qualified mental health provider who can work with you directly. What I share here comes from my clinical experience and my own journey, but your situation is unique to you. If you are in crisis, please contact 988 or go to your nearest emergency room. Thanks for being here.